A man in the United Kingdom has just launched a terrible physical assault on the King of England, King Charles III. But because the man who attacked him is very polite, like all British people, he didn't attack him with a gun, he didn't attack him with a knife, he didn't punch him. He threw some eggs at him. You can see in the clip, it's on BBC. This actually gives me a lot of respect for King Charles. The guy throws an egg, and Charles, this just extraordinarily dignified, stuffy old British man, just kind of gently looks to his side as the egg falls. Doesn't blink, doesn't move, doesn't flinch at all. And the guy keeps throwing eggs at him. Terrible arm, by the way, doesn't hit him once. But Charles, he doesn't duck. This wasn't like George Bush with the shoe in Iraq where he's kind of ducking the shoes. He just stands there, and the eggs keep flying, and Charles just keeps, sort of, hello, how are you, shaking hands in the line? It's very, very dignified. And it's good. It really makes me think, one, Charles is a lot manlier and more virile than I think people, including myself, would have given him credit for. But two, that's dignity. And, American politics, not very dignified. Whatever else you want to say about American politics, it is not conducive to dignity. And it would be nice to have a little bit of dignity, like just a little smidge of it, as much as we can possibly have in this kind of eccentric country of ours. When you look at Charles doing that, you think that's quite nice. I actually rather like that. I wish that we had people who would stand up straight, and not flinch, and kind of keep on keeping on, keep a stiff upper lip, as the British have. Now, for the man who egged King Charles, this man's punishment is, I'm not joking, he's a 23-year-old man, Patrick Thelwell. His punishment is that he can no longer carry eggs in public. Just like that, one of life's simple joys taken away from him. That's right. No longer can he carry eggs in public. But otherwise, he's basically off the hook. It's fine, no big deal. In this case, really, you would have to say the punishment fits the crime. You throw eggs at the king, you lose your egg privileges. That's very good. One of the problems in the American justice system right now is that the punishments don't seem to fit the crime. If you are a BLM rioter and you threaten people's lives and you loot and you steal and you pillage and you burn and you throw Molotov cocktails, you don't get punished at all. You get maybe a little slap on the wrist, if that. Kamala Harris bails you out of jail, and then you go right back into the street, do the same thing. You get encouragement, actually, for your crimes from the libs. But if you're a conservative who, let's say, shows up to the Capitol Rotunda on the day that they're certifying the election, and you have a horn hat on, and maybe you take some selfies with a lectern in the rotunda, and maybe, I don't know, you crack a Coors Light at the Capitol, you'll be thrown in solitary confinement. Your life will be ruined. The feds will go after you with everything they've got. Forget about January 6th for a second. If you have the audacity to say that you don't want your kid to be transgendered in the third grade, you will be called a domestic terrorist. You will be investigated by the federal government. You'll be called a fascistic threat to our sacred democracy. It's a place where in neither case, for the left or for the right, the punishments don't fit the crimes. The leftists need to be punished much more harshly, and the conservatives currently are being punished far too harshly. Though there is a case here that just came out, and no one's really reporting on this, but I think they should. Speaking of people connected to Prince Andrew, quite a segue. One of Jeffrey Epstein's associates was accused of doing all the creepy sex stuff with the underage girls, and he was accused by the main accuser, Virginia Giuffre. And he, the whole time, maintained his innocence. He denied he had anything to do it, and nobody believed him. I believed him, actually, and I gave him the benefit of the doubt because I know him personally, and I just thought he was telling the truth. That would be Alan Dershowitz, the famed Harvard law professor. Alan Dershowitz was, and to say Epstein associate is really actually overstating it. He was Epstein's lawyer, and every man is entitled to a defense in this country, and Alan Dershowitz has defended some of the worst people on earth. That's his job. That's his role in the justice system. He defended OJ. And so he defended Jeffrey Epstein. He said, I wish I never met Jeffrey Epstein, but every man's entitled to a defense, and I was his attorney, and I don't regret it. I don't regret being his attorney. But when he was accused of doing weird sex stuff with Virginia Giuffre, he said, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I have never engaged in sexual misconduct. For all my other sins, that's not something I've ever done. This woman is mistaken. It's not true. She maintained that it was true. Well, just this week, she dropped her lawsuit. She dropped it. She dropped the allegations against Alan Dershowitz. She said, I have long believed that I was trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein to Alan Dershowitz. However, I was very young at the time. It was a very stressful and traumatic environment, and Mr. Dershowitz has from the beginning consistently denied these allegations. I now recognize I may have made a mistake in identifying Mr. Dershowitz. This litigation has been very stressful and burdensome for me and my family, and we believe it is time to bring it to an end and move on with our lives. Now, some people who are more cynical or skeptical, they'll look at this and say, I bet Dershowitz just paid her off. But Dershowitz says he did not pay her off. He says that no money has been exchanged here. She is dropping the allegations, and then Dershowitz says, as I've said from the beginning, I never had sex with Ms. Giuffre. I have nevertheless come to believe that at the time she accused me, she believed what she said. Ms. Giuffre is to be commended for her courage in now stating publicly that she may have been mistaken about me. She suffered much at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein. And so now Alan Dershowitz is dropping his allegations that David Boies engaged in an extortion plot and in supporting perjury. It was this whole complex thing. They're all just dropping it. Now, I thought if anybody didn't do it who was connected to Jeffrey Epstein, it was Alan Dershowitz. Not because he's not a man, not because he doesn't have red blood, but because that guy is just so buttoned up. That guy is just so smart. He's so disciplined. I just don't think he would have opened himself up to something like that for all of the other considerations as well. This raises a question here. Why is it that we don't know who actually did it? I guess we can strongly suspect that Prince Andrew did because they settled for reportedly millions of pounds out of court. But why is it that, okay, Dershowitz was all in the headlines, but now his accuser says, now I think I was mistaken. Why is it that we don't have that little black book? Why is it that Ghislaine Maxwell, she's getting some slap on the wrist, and as part of her prosecution, we don't know who was with Epstein. We know that this guy, we know he palled around with some of the richest, most powerful people on planet Earth. But why is it that none of the people who did have sex with the underage girls, why is it that they haven't been held to account? Why is it that we don't even have their names for certain? This is the sort of environment in which someone like Trump really thrives. And there's a little bit of an irony here because Trump did know Jeffrey Epstein because Epstein was a member of his club, but there has been no serious allegation that Donald Trump went to Creepy Pedo Island or that he slept with any of these girls. Trust me, if there were any evidence of it, the Democrats would have been running with this for 6 years. It doesn't exist. Bill Clinton took dozens of flights with Jeffrey Epstein on the Lolita Express. You don't see any of those same kind of allegations about Donald Trump. Nothing. But this is the sort of environment in which someone like a Trump will flourish. And it's even now, as I think he's burning a lot of political capital with people who would otherwise support him in these attacks on Ron DeSantis and Glenn Youngkin and everyone else, this is still an advantage that Donald Trump has that the other guys don't. Glenn Youngkin and especially Ron DeSantis, they are incredibly good, skilled politicians who are doing really excellent things and who I think have a good, clear political vision and who have a lot of political courage and a lot of political competence and all the rest of it. But the distinguishing feature here is Donald Trump, even after serving a term as president, is not viewed as a politician. He did not work in politics. All the other guys who potentially could run are politicians, and they've been politicians, and that's their profession, and good for them. I think politics actually can be a perfectly dignified profession if one does it the right way. Maybe that's a rare case, but it certainly can be. But this is still something that Donald Trump has. And so the more corrupt, the more insane, the more nefarious that the political establishment seems, the better Donald Trump looks. And even now, even after everything that he has been through, even after the bloom might be off the rose a little bit, that is still going to be something that gives him a real shot in 2024. The rest of the show continues now. You don't want to miss it, okay? Because this is Fake Headline Friday. If you're not a member, click the link in the description and join us.